Welcome to the Bastrop Podcast. Real people, real stories, all from right here in Bastrop, Texas. I'm your host, Matt Walker, a local business owner, realtor, and entrepreneur with Wisdom House Realty Group and Bastrop Drone and Media Company. We sit down with the locals, shaping our community, from the mayor's office to Main Street shops, and bring you the voices behind the town we call home.
Welcome to the Bastrop Podcast. I'm Liana Walker. I'm super excited to be here today. I have three amazing women on the podcast with me today. We are going to be talking about women who shape Bastrop. And our guests include Becki Womble. She's the CEO and president of Bastrop Regional Chamber, the 5-star accredited chamber. I have Myra Goepp, the president of Benchmark Austin, with us, and Kayla Hixon, the development manager of Bastrop's Adelton community, also with Benchmark Austin. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here today. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. Can you please share with our listeners a little bit about yourselves, who you are, and what you're building and leading in Bastrop?
My name is Becki Womble, and I'm the very proud president and CEO of the Bastrop Regional Chamber, 5-star accredited, one of 154 in the nation. And I'm just very proud to lead our chamber and our vibrant business community that's here. We represent around 800 members, and just love my job. It's what God created me to do.
I love the chamber. I am a chamber nerd officially. I tell everyone to join the chamber now.
All right. I will give you a referral, some brownie points for that.
How about you, Myra and Kayla? Go ahead, Myra.
Really, first off, I just want to thank you for your thoughtfulness in putting this together and just the exploring Bastrop and all of its strengths and really helping Bastrop grow. Things like this really demonstrate what a small community it is. And so my name's Myra Goepp. I'm with Benchmark Austin. We are a land development provider. We have a community right here in Bastrop that we started working on in the mid-2000s. And we really just started the evolution, the vertical construction and the infrastructure construction on it. It's called Adelton, and it's right there at 20 and 71.
I love Adelton. I've sold 4 of those houses so far, and it's one of my favorite neighborhoods. I'm really excited for the commercial spaces. I can't wait to kind of go to whatever's going to pop up over there. And Kayla, how about you?
My name is Kayla Hixon. I also just want to thank y'all so much for this opportunity. First podcast, super excited to be here. Like Myra said, we are developing the 350 acres called Adelton. I'm the development manager for that project. And yeah, really excited to dive right in and explain a little bit more about how we play a role in shaping the community of Bastrop. And yeah.
Wonderful. All right. There's a lot of women who live in Bastrop area or Austin area who are developing what God's called them to. And I feel like all 3 of you are role models for myself and for other women who are looking for their path and who are trying to gain confidence in what they've been called to do. What has the journey looked like for you? Was it intentional, specifically Becki? Was it intentional for you to become the chamber CEO and president, or how did that come about?
It was not intentional. It was 2008, and I had been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years, and we had been in 2 mortgages. And we had just moved to a town called Lockhart, which is about 30 miles from here. And we'd been in 2 mortgages for 10 months, and Rick looked at me and says, "You need to get a job." So I basically applied and was just an administrative assistant at the Lockhart Chamber for about 4 years, but it gave me the flexibility to be there for my children because they were just in elementary school at the time. And anyways, I thought once the house sells, if I don't like it, I'll quit. Here I am 18 years later and leading a 5-star accredited chamber, but I believe it was just kind of a God thing that I ended up in this position and doing what I love and what I really feel like God created me to do. So a little bit unusual journey, but yeah.
Do you feel like there was a moment where you realized that you were stepping into a leadership role or you were in a leadership position?
I feel like I've always had leadership skills. Obviously, especially in the last 12 years, I've really worked on honing that and just surrounding myself with other amazing women, executive coaches, and just people that would lift you up. And I've always kept in contact with other great women. In fact, for my 50th birthday, my sister asked, "What do you want to do to celebrate?" And we decided on having 50 influential women. And I thought that list will be hard to put together, but it was really easy because I've always kind of surrounded myself with other great women.
I love that. Myra, for your journey into becoming the president of Benchmark Austin, what has that looked like for you?
I think I love Becki's comment about just it not being intentional. And I think you sort of, I feel like it was almost in some respects fate, right? I ended up growing into that position. But I, as a young adult, had a whole different vision and education and focus on working in mental health and really trying to help people navigate their world. And when I moved to Texas, I was working for a place called the Brown Schools, which provided mental health services and cognitive services to folks here on a private end. And when it came back to going back to school, I ended up going into engineering. And to go from the engineering and learning about how things are built and designing how things are built. And it became a natural progression for the development company to say, you need to come work for us. And so it was happenstance that I was able to find this path to this position.
Was there a moment where you realized that you were in a leadership position or that you had leadership skills?
I think it's that it's not necessarily a lightning bulb that goes off in front of you. It's almost as if they're asking you to take leadership, they're asking you to take responsibility for something, and it's just stepping up and not being, for me personally, like we all are hesitant. Sometimes it's hard, right? And feeling that friction is okay and recognizing that it's okay to feel that friction. And then when you see others in their path, to let them know that, inspire them that it can be hard, but it's rewarding once you kind of get through that path. But I mean, when you look at leadership, it's really one of those things that your job, and I wouldn't call it a job like it feels like work, but you're really inspiring others to get to a common goal. And it's to know when you are, I always liken everything to food. You're not the meat or the potato. You're the salt. You're the seasoning that's enhancing the people that you're working with.
I love that.
That's
so
awesome.
much. Yeah, I love that. That's really good. I'm going to be thinking about that. Kayla, how about you? You are in early career phase and you are Gen Z. So I love Gen Z energy. I always tell people I need more Gen Z energy in my life. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you at such a young age to move into a management position.
Right. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I got here before Benchmark. Growing up, I would go to model homes with my mom on the weekend and my sister. It was my favorite pastime. Every weekend, we would just beg her to go. And of course, my sister and I dreamed of going to eventually moving into the neighborhoods, but we stayed in the same home for my whole life. But yeah, so that weekend activity with my mom and sister was something that really instilled in me just a desire and a love for the built environment, and just really walking in and taking that space and looking at how it's intentionally done. And a little bit about my educational part. I started at A&M as a finance major. I was about halfway through my degree, and I just really felt like this wasn't for me. It wasn't what was getting me up in the morning. It wasn't what I ultimately felt like the Lord was calling me to. And so I thought back to those model homes that I would go to with my mom on the weekends. And there was a program, General Studies Architecture program. The transition was pretty seamless. Thankfully, course overlap was great. And then I ended up staying for my master's in land and property development. That was a very tangible way that I could get involved and start making an impact on the spaces around me. I loved just the elements of design within a neighborhood that you don't see everywhere, like tight-knit streets, tree-lined streets, different colors. All of those things were things that I really appreciated with a design background, a love for design, a love for people. And yeah, so I was about to graduate and I went to a happy hour that I wasn't planning on going to. And I connected with a lady who had worked at Empire Homes. She worked in their land acquisition team. And she was like, Kayla, I have this great opportunity with Myra. She is a wonderful developer. You're going to learn so much. I really think you should apply. And so I applied. I started out as an intern and transitioned to full-time. And then the opportunity presented itself to transition into development manager at a time much earlier than I ever would have planned or imagined. I was 7 months pregnant. So really just taking that leap of faith and trusting that with the help of my team, my faith, I would get through and I would learn. And I think that that's really all that it's about, is taking each day, day by day, and learning, just learning. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, a little bit long-winded, but yeah.
I wouldn't say long-winded at all. I'm just going to mic drop here for a second, because there's something about what Kayla said that is really important about how we approach communities. And it's really thinking about it through the end user's eyes. And so when she's telling us this or sharing the story about the model homes, and it's in how do you envision, how do you live your life here? How do you build relationships and community? How do you drive through the neighborhood so that the speeds are slow and safe? Or how do you have variety so there's independent or individuality, that not all the houses look the same, it's not cookie cutter, and people can express their value and retain their value in their home. And so really each step of how we approach a community is understanding how that community fits in the area or the city or the county that it's in. And Adelton is hopefully a complement to Bastrop, because it is that small town spirit, that connectedness. It's compact and connected, and that compactness also, it brings us environmental advantages. But when Kayla shares, it's our secret sauce, is that when we're thinking about how that community is going to grow and evolve, we're thinking about how a person lives every stage of their life through that community.
I want to tag on that too. She talked about learners and learning. Mm-hmm. And I think leaders are always learners.
Yes, I love that. I was thinking about make the most of every opportunity. That's like a huge motto for my life. And I feel like as each of you shared, that's really what you've done, is an opportunity came to you and you took the opportunity. And it is a step of faith, because we really don't know, especially at certain points in your life and in your career, there's bigger risks. Like, okay, if I take this risk where I take on this huge development, is it going to take off? Will people like it? Or if I become the chamber president, will I do well? Or if I step into this role and I have a new baby coming, these are like risks. And so I love when people don't let fear stop them and they take the opportunity and they run with it. And that's just like such a great way to live and see what happens and where you bloom. The other thing I was going to say is I love the Adelton community, where I'm a realtor, my whole team is, and we have been in communities where we're like, that was really badly done. Like and you can tell that the person that developed it doesn't live here, maybe never even been to Texas. And then when we go into a community that's very intentional, like Adelton, it's clear, okay, who the people developing this know the people that live here. They know the culture, they know the vibe, they know the needs. So it really does make a huge difference, especially when you're in the real estate industry and you're seeing developments every single day. It makes a huge difference. We notice for sure.
That's appreciated. I mean, that's like one of the best compliments we probably could ever get. It's really recognizing that comes from the feedback of our residents time after time, and through all our communities, we're constantly looking for that feedback about what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be stronger, bigger, smaller, all of those things. Because I say it as, when you're living someplace, you're the eyes and ears and the heartbeat of it. And so you see it, and we're there during the day. And sometimes you may not recognize, a street lamp isn't working, or a light is out, or something is leaking, or any of those things. And so it's really, it's the village component that you're relying on those residents. Also, they're building that sense for you and helping direct the sale in some respects.
Yeah, it's very intentional. We talked a little bit more about your roles and what you do. What do you think women bring to the corporate space, or also just leadership and communities, that is unique?
I'll go first on that. I think we are very good at relationships and building relationships. I think my husband looks at me sometimes like, how have you kept up with these Delta sorority sisters all these years? I was like, because we've worked at it, and they're my support group, and whenever I've got a prayer request or something or a need, they're the first group I reach out to. But I think we're just very good at building relationships and nurturing them.
It's truly collaboration, isn't it? I mean, we aren't afraid to learn from each other and or nudge each other like, whoa, maybe, have you thought about it this different way? But I would have to say there's also a certain amount of tenacity that you recognize things go wrong, and that's okay too. It's also maybe a little bit of recognizing that you don't know everything and you need that input and that collaboration from everybody or other folks to kind of help guide the path, and makes us a little bit more creative. But tenacity also plays into it. When you find yourself in a career path where there may not be as many other women in that path, you really do rely on each other. So that's one thing, but there may not be that many examples readily available. And so you have to have the courage in yourself and that tenacity to keep putting one step in front of the other.
I would also have to say just the relationships, and something that also came to my head was the ability to juggle a lot of thoughts. I have a 9-month-old son and he's at daycare. He's at a Spanish immersion daycare. And I can speak some Spanish, but I'm not fluent by any means. And so just like thinking about everything that I need to do to get him ready for the day, to set him up for success, to set my team up for success. And it's a lot to juggle. It's a lot to manage. But I do think just the ability to multitask, not in a way that stretches you, but just that collaboration and that willingness to collaborate, the willingness to build relationships. I would say that that's one of the great things about being a woman in leadership.
Yeah, those are all very wonderful examples. I was thinking another thing that I've experienced is that women generally are emotionally intelligent. And I was talking to a finance guy last week and he was asking me, I just don't understand why this specific area, not Bastrop, but he was just talking about, I don't understand financially, this should be doing well. And I was explaining to him, well, actually, there's a big emotional and mental and psychological aspect to it that you're not aware of. So it's not just financial. We're not just looking at numbers on a paper. There's actually, is the community emotionally ready? Are they mentally ready? Does something happen in the news? There is a very big part of business that's personable, that's emotional. And I feel like women are really good at having those conversations that feel very natural and not just like they're on Shark Tank or something. And I really appreciate that too, because sometimes when I meet with someone that I go into the meeting assuming it's going to need to be very black and white, numbers, graphs, and we just have kind of a heart-to-heart, it goes way better than if we would have just gone over numbers, over texting or something. I feel like women are really good at that, softening the process maybe in some ways, having a little bit more compassion in some ways. And these are very generalized stereotypes.
Sure.
Every person is different. There's definitely men that are good at these too, but just being detail oriented is a really big strength of women, being detail oriented, multitasking, and emotional intelligence. I feel like those are some of the strengths that women provide for the community. Jumping off of that, do you feel like you overcame resistance as a woman in your career or your role in your life?
Resistance isn't male or female, and I think that's one of the things. I think that we may react to that resistance differently. And just because you're a guy doesn't mean that you don't get resistance. They do. I think when you're feeling resistance, you're growing. That means you're growing. And I wouldn't necessarily characterize it as a negative. And maybe it's about repositioning that that shows that you are strengthening. If we equated it to maybe lifting weights or something like that, you have resistance, right, from the weight, but you're also building your muscles and your strength. And I feel like our brains are the same way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think just sometimes becoming the subject expert in the room. So anytime I've found resistance, I've just tried to educate myself on what's going on, what the issue is, what the background story is. And so I feel like I've really easily overcoming kind of resistance by just continuing to learn about the subject matter or what the issue is that I'm dealing with.
Early on in my civil engineering career, I was working on a community called Plum Creek. And this is a 2,000-acre development, also a traditional neighborhood, new urbanism type project. And we were doing a large excavation project. And the contractor wasn't following the plans. And he kept telling me, I don't need to follow your plans. They're just a guide. And I was a little nervous about that. And he was so irritated with me that he had called the owner out there to have a meeting to tell me, that he didn't need to follow these plans. And just like Becki was saying is, knowing your material, knowing it well, and being able to just kind of express, here are the reasons that we're doing it. That owner in 2 seconds shut down that contractor and really said, I paid a lot of money for these plans. These have been processed by the city. And time is money for the owner at the end of the day. But it was being prepared and really knowing your material. And that helps build your confidence. There's always going to be a doubter out there. Right. Mm-hmm. No matter, and I don't think it's intentional, like someone's trying to be mean to you. It's just
it motivates me. It motivates me if somebody doubts me.
I mean, isn't it a process, Becki, where it motivates you and you find yourself that you're in educational mode? How do I step into this person's shoes and try to eliminate their concern or their question? how do I educate them about what we're trying to accomplish and bring them into the fold of the common goal?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes being able to just give them the background history on something will help overcome any resistance or any doubt that they may have in you.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, a big part of resistance has just come internally, just self-doubt and not trusting that I'll be able to figure out the problem or that I'm good enough for the role. And maybe that stems from just comparison. We have social media where everything is picturesque and perfect. And then we have the real world where it's not exactly the same. So self-doubt, and I think just some encouragement there to anyone who also might be feeling that way, is just trusting in yourself, having confidence, and like Myra and Becki said, empowering yourself with the knowledge. I think that is a great step, and that just something to do, the first thing to do.
It's also okay to say, I don't know, right?
Right.
And
But I will find out.
yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like when you had said something to me the other day about like there are folks that you sort of digging for a question or for some information and that they'll just pop off with an answer instead of just saying, I don't know. And really, that's maybe the first step of giving yourself that breath but I can go figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard this saying, I don't know where it comes from, but it's a wise person knows when they don't know and they're not afraid to ask those who do. And I heard that when I was in college and it like really stuck with me of saying, and I tell my team this when they first get into real estate, they're nervous about their first listing presentation. What if I don't know the answers? They're worried. And I say, just tell them, I will find an answer for you. I will find out. Don't be afraid to say like you don't know, but have a good response to that. Like I will provide the answer. Just give me an hour or find someone that you want to ask. Ask an expert. Don't always pretend to be the expert, but I think that's great. Just saying you don't know the answer. You had mentioned earlier about Bastrop being a front runner in women in leadership. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, if you really look at the palette of Bastrop today, there's a tremendous number of women in leadership here. I mean, you have Christy Leave, the superintendent of the school, and she grew into that position. You have Denise Guerra, who's the principal. She's a dynamo over at Adelton, the Adelton Elementary. Claire Beckett over at the commissioners. And then we have two council members that are female, the police chief here in Bastrop also. But there's a gal early, 1937, leadership and women in leadership is not new to Bastrop. Her name is Lee Mancure. She, in 1937, was the first female Texas registered engineer.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so setting a pathway that early on, it's always been a part of Bastrop for women in a leadership role.
I love that. And I think 6 years ago, 6 years ago, there was a valedictorian of Bastrop. She was the first Asian female valedictorian. And I just know her mom, but she's so proud of her. And I thought that was so cool. I don't know how many valedictorians there's been that's been female, but just to be like the first. And even, isn't Ishmael the first African-American?
Yes, Ishmael is, yes.
Mayor of Bastrop?
And then we had the first female mayor, Connie Schrader, back in 2017, I think it was. And she
Also
served,
an engineer.
Yes, yes. And she served for 6 years. So, and then city manager, Sylvia Carrillo.
Sylvia.
All four superintendents in Bastrop County are females. Yeah, there's lots of women leadership. And what's really cool is there's so many parallels right now between the 1920s and the 2020s. We started each one with a pandemic.
Oh, my.
You had women who couldn't vote in 1920, and now we have all these amazing women in leadership roles. You had the first flight of the Wright brothers, and now we've got a ship that just circled the moon. I mean, there's just, the talkie, those were the talking picture shows, and now we've got AI that's creating picture shows. I mean, there's just, people are figuring out just that they can live differently. They don't necessarily have to live and work in the same place. They can work remotely. We've changed our lifestyle, and you can have it both. You can have a beautiful home and then not have to go into the office in Austin or whatever. You can work, because
self-driving car.
Yeah, self-driving car, yeah. And cars were new. And then just technology. I mean, we didn't even have plumbing, electric, and running water in the 1920s. And now we've got all this innovation. So it's kind of a cool time.
But what's great about Bastrop is it's retained its authenticity.
Yes.
Its small town spirit and that architecture in the downtown area. And although all of that has been modernized and it's fire safe and all of those components and safety is top of mind, it's modern on the inside, right? And plumbing, power, all of those sort of things, but it still has that authenticity, that charm, that welcomingness, which sort of brings a sense of safety and you just feel comfortable. And it's almost like one of the things we talk about Adelton is like when you first arrive there and you're just traveling down the streets, it's like a blink and a moment, you know you're home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We just drove through there this weekend, and it definitely feels like that. Definitely feels like that.
And the school is beautiful. My kids are that age, and so a bunch of their friends go there, and all the parents say they love the school, they love the teachers, they love the neighborhood. The clients that we've moved into the neighborhood all love it. So always hearing good things. I'm very excited for the commercial space that's coming.
Kayla can tell you a little bit more about that because I think we're getting close.
We are getting close. We are anticipating them breaking ground within the next 2 months. We're super excited to see what that brings to the community. It's been an exciting process. Myra tells me that historically, the rooftops come before the retail. So I think that it really just says a lot about Bastrop. It says a lot about the community that retail is interested in coming before all of our rooftops are on the ground. And another exciting piece is we just broke ground on our amenity center. We're super excited to have that come to fruition. It's a 6,500 square foot pool, pickleball courts, basketball courts, a community gathering space, a beer garden for kids' parties, neighborhood parties, block parties. Yeah, lots of fun things happening at Adelton right now. So
Kiddo playground,
Yes.
2 distinct playgrounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're excited to see that. We'll be taking pictures along the way, but it's just kind of neat to be part of that process of watching it, come from the ground up. But we're always, as developers and land developers, we're recognizing that we're handing that community off, the ownership of it eventually to the residents that live there. And so just this morning, Kayla and I were interviewing different maintenance companies and having them kind of evaluate the design to make sure that what we're going to have built really is of value and easy to maintain, is cost effective for the folks that are there.
Yeah. Is the bodega still coming?
So the developer that's doing the commercial, our first portion of commercial, there are 2 commercial opportunities. There's actually 3 there along FM20, right? And obviously we have the signal. It's a blinking light today, but ultimately that will be a stop signal, a controlled intersection. And so the commercial neighborhood service, first, it's convenience, right, and small groceries and things like that. And they have a second phase of their project, which is, I think,
15,000 square feet.
15,000 square feet of retail. They have not identified who those tenants will be. And so first they're bringing in this first phase. And as Kayla pointed out, they need customers. So they will phase that according to how the community grows. But they have room for neighborhood services there. And then they'll have another smaller footprint for potentially a restaurant. And so as the community grows, then those services will also grow. But we're on the hunt for a daycare. Right? We have the school, and part of, as Kayla mentioned earlier, daycare is a necessary component of our formula. And so we have that opportunity for a daycare. We're looking to fill that slot within the community, that use within the community. But one of the things that we try to do in our communities is to have a variety of types and sizes of housing. And that kind of plays into some sustainability where we have smaller homes, larger homes, mid-sized homes, so that as you age, you can, be an early adopter. Maybe you get something that's small. Maybe you're renting in the beginning, and then you can transition and still be in the same neighborhood. Like maybe you've gotten married, you're growing your family, so you get a starter home, and then your family keeps expanding, and you may get a larger home, or you move in your mother-in-law or your parent. And so creating that diversity in housing really allows folks to have that continuity in their home life, but yet move through the needs of when a family begins and expands. And then, as kids leave the nest and grow up, you don't need as much space. And so that's one of the characteristics that we're really trying to recognize, that not one size fits all.
Yeah. And for the commercial space, is the land for sale, or how does that work?
Great question. I love that. So we're in the business of readying the land, right? So we're creating those streets, the infrastructure, the water, the wastewater, the drainage, all of the icing on the cake, that landscaping, as I would call it. And we prepare that land and we subdivide that land. And we use a group who has been in Austin forever and a day, McAllister. And we work with a gentleman named Spence Collins. Spence is fabulous. He's out there trying to identify and curate those end users to purchase the land to realize their project. And so, like with the commercial folks that are just breaking ground, they already own the land.
Okay. And then so some of them could be developers who then rent spaces, possibly.
Yes. For example, the folks that bought the commercial lot up front there on FM20, they own the land and they're going to own the small convenience store, all of that. But they're also going to create this other 15,000 square feet of retail space, and they will rent that to a variety of tenants and own that and operate it. But then there'll be all those different services. And so it helps us create that mix of immediacy where you're not looking for big box, right? But you're looking for the sort of neighborhood services that are part of your day-to-day and part of your fabric. So you don't always have to go out to 71 or whatnot. It's not as if once you come home, you have to get back into the car. You can walk on over.
I love that. I think about like the Domain or Mueller. I've heard it compared to Mueller a lot. The Vision. Would you say those are kind of what you're sort of...
The Domain would be a little bit larger scale on a retail and multifamily component. And so this would be more right-sized to the Bastrop conditions, I would say, to be a little bit more on the traditional neighborhood. So it's smaller. If you look at Mueller, this is a 700-acre project. We have another project that's very similar to Mueller. It's called Goodnight Ranch. It's in Southeast Austin. That's over 6,000 residential homes at the end of the day and a variety of housing type. And then it has all sorts of opportunity for sort of a town center, whereas Adelton is a little bit more sized to the Bastrop conditions. And obviously, there's all this tremendous existing big box along 71 with the right amount of transportation and connection. We're going to be kind of smaller scale. I think we have an opportunity to get up to about 150,000 square feet of mixed use.
For the land that's for sale, if we have someone interested, is it online or how do they get connected with you? Or if they're interested in leasing out the spaces, how would they get connected with that?
So I guess one, you could always approach Kayla, but McAllister and Associates for getting into the future retail space that the First Commercial folks. So Hill is the contact there and Kayla can point you to that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I'll definitely...
Well, I just have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I represent the business community. Can we have written into those leases that they have to be a member of the Bastrop Regional Chamber? Just kidding.
Not kidding.
Since we've already sold the land, that's a little bit beyond my purview.
No, I'm kidding.
But I think that is really something that we would strongly encourage, right? Obviously, we're a member of the chamber as well, and I really feel like it's a strong heartbeat of Bastrop. And so the newsletter and all the different components help us understand what's happening in Bastrop, what's coming, what's needed. And, a great example here is where we're seeing from the economic development in Bastrop, one of the key or primary things that was identified was that really we have employers coming in, which is fantastic. And it's really educating that workforce. And so that opportunity to look at education opportunities and drawing maybe things like ACC into the community to help educate and strengthen Bastrop and its workforce for these employers. One of the things we do in our communities is we have a community enhancement fee. It's a 0.3% every sale in perpetuity for the rest of its life in this project will go into a fund. And we use that fund specifically to create educational opportunities for the residents. It's not just like tutoring or elementary school. We look at all ages, all levels, and it takes a while to amass it to be able to start doing things, but we kind of divide it up into two different sections. One will be just like sort of monthly programming, and it could be, I'm applying for college. How do you interview? How do you get a will? How would I invest? How do I go back to school? Nutrition, wellness items. We have MD Anderson came into Goodnight Ranch to give a presentation about early detection for cancer. And so we use that program to create education for those residents in the community. And that's kind of investing back into Bastrop and the people that live there.
I absolutely love that. Yeah. I love everything that y'all are sharing. I feel like it really gives insight into Adelton and that it's not just another cookie cutter development. It really is very, very intentional and there's a very bright future.
I was going to say, one of the things I think is so special and why we're in such a good place right now is the working relationships across the board. I've been in this position here in Bastrop for 12 years now, and I have never seen the relationships be so strong and people supporting each other and connecting people. It might just be something really simple, but making those connections for each other. And I've just never seen the collaboration that we've got going on be so stellar. It's really amazing. And I think that's why we're having such success and why we are the rising star right now of Central Texas.
Yeah, a lot of developers around the nation are, and even globally, are looking at Bastrop and they're wondering what's going on there, what makes it special, why is this place the place? And there's a lot of black and white number reasons, but really there is also that personal aspect of like, why is Bastrop such a great community? Our chamber is thriving. This is the first chamber I've ever joined, so I don't know. I haven't had any other experience, but the Bastrop chamber is like, I feel like it's the backbone of business in Bastrop, and I love it. It's like so fun. The events, it's just so thriving. And to kind of answer that question, what does make Bastrop unique? Why are people interested in moving here, starting business here? And how do you balance the small town feel with the growth that's coming?
I think it goes back a little bit to you talking about women and, our strengths and everything. I think the fact that we treat everybody like a Bastropian, whether they've been here 6 generations or 6 days. I think just everyone feeling welcome, because that's not normal. That's not natural. And I think that, we're plugging people into resources. And I don't know if it goes back to like the fires that we had and people had to take care of each other and check on each other before state resources could come in. But people are moving here because they find something that they really like. They find community, they find a neighborhood, and they want to be connected. And I think we just connect people and we want to hold on to that culture. We don't want to lose it. It's great that all this growth is coming, but we need to continue to make a deliberate effort to build relationships and make sure people feel welcome and part of the community. Get them plugged into, the chamber or their church or a civic group. And in that way, if a disaster came again, they would have a reason to stay and rebuild.
Yeah, I love that.
It's the people and it's the character and nature of the land itself, like the physical components of, you have the loblolly pine, right? So that's different than the oak that you'll see more towards the hill country. We start to get into the rolling hills over here, different soils and the color of the soil. So there's just so many things that says, I'm someplace different, but I'm comfortable and I'm welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
We always like to ask our guests for 60 seconds of wisdom. It can be related to anything we talked about today, or it can be anything in your life that you feel like has been a guiding factor for you. I'll go with Becki first. What are 60 seconds of wisdom that you would like to share with our listeners?
Wow, 60 seconds of wisdom. We talked about women and their strengths and the impact that they're making here in Bastrop. Again, I would just say surround yourself with just amazing women and just leaders in your industry if you want to grow there, and just continue to be a leader, a learner if you want to be a leader. That's it.
Wonderful.
60 seconds, but
perfect. Myra, how about you?
I have to sort of second one of Becki's comments there about surrounding yourself around other really strong folks. On a personal level, I had a very strong individual for a mother, and just really demonstrate. She was a dentist, and so at her time period, she was the first woman in her dental class. And so watching her kind of cut her path, and her career path was always something that helped me understand that it's okay to feel friction. It's okay for things to go wrong. You will figure it out. And so having that safety net of some folks around you that are strong leaders is definitely a way to help you do it differently. One of the things they say about housing, about mixed income and housing, is the best way for a person to bootstrap themselves is to expose themselves to people that have higher education or have a different culture or a different income level, so that you can envision creating that for yourself. And leadership is no different in that respect.
Wonderful, solid advice from both of you. Kayla?
The phrase that keeps coming to mind is it takes a village, and being willing to lean on that village and ask your village and your community for help, for wisdom. Ask for wisdom when you need it. That is, something that I think is often overlooked, but so important. Like, we're built for community, and a place is not what it is without the people. So really just leaning in on that would definitely be my advice.
That's really good advice. I need to apply all this advice that you guys said today.
One of the things maybe that we didn't say about Bastrop is for the county and the city to grow, it has to have the right infrastructure. And the leadership here has been focused on making sure that the county and the city is prepared to serve, right? These are public facilities, public items, and you can have I don't want to call it a landslide, but you could have issues if the leadership hasn't provided that great foundation. And Bastrop has turned a page and set that page to really be prepared for that growth and to teach others to come enjoy that community.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the council members we have, the mayor and Becki and others who are, and yourselves, who are very intentionally planning with the future in mind and the infrastructure, the roads, like that road opened. Agnes Road opens. I call it my favorite road now. And it's just this simple little back road that I'm like, oh, I love it. There's no traffic. But just the little things that really make a huge difference in a community. Where do you see Bastrop in 5 to 10 years?
I can see us probably with a third high school with the people that are moving here and the growth that's coming. I can see us with a new convention center and moving our existing convention center to a rec center. I just see the quality of life and the standard of life here just continuing to rise. The future's bright. The future's really bright here.
Love that.
I would say that I would also see that Bastrop is curating a variety of services for the residents that are here and different lifestyle programs. And so it's full circle. It's not just housing. It's not just employment, but it's also your day-to-day and quality of life. And so I feel like there's good preservation of that and planning and trying new things, right? There's some new stuff that is coming to Bastrop that is unique. And so definitely a willingness to be prepared, but also with quality of life in mind.
Wonderful. Well, ladies, I really appreciate y'all coming on the podcast today. If somebody wants to find out more about what we spoke about, how could they get a hold of you?
Mine's real easy. I mean, our office is 512-303-0558. Our website is bastropchamber.com, and my email is bwomble@bastropchamber.com.
Our website is adeltontx.com, and there is a contact us blurb there that we would receive that connection.
Perfect. And if anyone is interested in buying the land in Adelton, call me 512-956-4714 and we will connect them with you. But thank you so much for your time. This conversation has been truly awesome, wonderful. I'm very inspired. I wrote down some notes to share with my team, and I look forward to driving through Adelton today and hanging out with all of you very soon again.
Well, certainly grateful to be your guest. You've been a fabulous hostess.
This has been a fun podcast, so thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Liana.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Bastrop Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, follow us on Instagram @Bastrop Podcast and share it with a neighbor. We're here with new conversations from people who make Bastrop feel like home. Got someone you think we should interview? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you.